From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. We are here at ISE2023 for the third part of our mini-series talking with the team at Q-SYS. And with me to co-host is Brittany DiCesare from Control Concepts. Welcome, Brittany.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
And you should be comfortable now, so anytime James is not with us, you'll be able to fill in.
Oh, I don't know that I signed up for that one.
3 in a row here. You haven't left yet.
Oh, well, you know.
And with us is Adrien Avellan from Q-SYS. Adrien, welcome first off, and thank you for listening, because I know that you're a big fan and a regular listener to our podcast.
I am excited to be here because I have been listening to your podcast in secret a little bit, but I love the content that you guys produce. I look up to it, and I think you guys do a great job in serving the overall community of programmers all over AV, completely agnostically, and it's content that's really good for everybody in this industry as a programmer to be watching. So.
Wow, I'm going to can that.
Uh-huh.
Well, Adrien, one of the reasons we had you come on, aside from that, is to talk about the Q-SYS communities. But before we dive into that, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and what about the podcast it really is intriguing. I mean, obviously, we really value the feedback, and we want to be able to continue to provide more relevant content. So, just share a little bit about how you've brought your software knowledge and experience to the industry, and also how that pertains to what you do now.
Absolutely. So I have a very wide background. I'll try to keep it relevant to the AV industry and for this podcast. So I have a past of software engineering. I call myself a terrible programmer. I've never made a career out of programming, but I've been in the world of programming my whole life. So learned very early on how to make video games with programming. Like everybody, you fall into that rabbit hole and you enjoy programming as a tool, to do the things you like. And so then I got into electrical engineering, where programming was always a secondary tool. In my career, I was working in a very completely different industry, but we were doing the same type of install jobs where we would design and go on site and install, lay out a lot of cables, and then a lot of sensors and measurements, etc. More on the engineering side. And I joined QSC in 2007 with their Proto division, and which was completely unrelated. I just have a passion for music as well. So QSC was a local company to me. I was looking up to them at the time, and worked my way around the company. And I just enjoy this world of engineering, this world of innovation. And QSYS was something I was aspiring to for a long time. So I joined QSYS and learn about this new existence of a new team called the Alliances and Ecosystems team, where we kind of change things the way we do at QSYS and QSC, where we look at the developer persona, and we want to learn about what developers are really doing for us in this industry, and realize that we were really never capturing the entire life cycle of a complete integration, if I may say, where you guys really put the final touch on things. Developers really, make things better at the end. It's the cherry on top, but that we never really captured. And so communities, this whole ecosystems team, my other colleagues that are part of my team, it's not just me. There's a whole team behind this, where we are really pushing Q-SYS into getting to know more the third-party developers that integrate our ecosystem with the rest of the world, because at the end it's becoming more and more of a partnership, which has recently become official with many of our partners. So that's what brought me here. I've always enjoyed supporting developers. I worked with developers all my life, so I know a lot of their challenges. By being an average, terrible programmer myself, I'm also very aware of challenges, but also, I'm very about best practices and making sure, we follow processes, and that's one thing, I appreciate about being able to bring to the developer world. So when I was asked if I wanted to join communities as a manager, I saw this as an opportunity to do just that, and to spend time with my favorite people who are programmers, and just to help complete their journey, whether internally here at QSYS with developers like you guys, and everybody who approaches us as a developer. Every day we meet new developers. Here we are at the ISE show. We meet 10 new people per day who tell me, hey, we develop with Q-SYS, never heard about you before, what do you do? And every time we're super impressed by the things they're able to accomplish on the field, and that's one of the goals of communities, is to really bring back to an entire community of Q-SYS, not only to show internally what these people are doing, but to show to the rest of the community. I'm sure you have more questions. I'll just say one more thing about communities is that we are really, I think at Q-SYS we finally understand that developers are just about the smartest people in the industry, and that there's so much that we can support developers until you are a developer yourself. So one of the goals of community was to provide and enable other developers to support other developers. We see how developers really support each other. There's rarely conflict of interest because they're a side of business, side of things. And between developers, there's really a spirit of camaraderie that you have, I would say, almost nowhere else. So communities just made sense. It was just a platform for people outside of Q-SYS, helping other people outside of Q-SYS, while remaining in the Q-SYS world. And at the end, we think it does make a better place for all the different parties involved.
Well, I'll say as a member of the communities for developers, you can tell how passionate you are through your engagement on the communities, and you can tell that you are so passionate about bringing these programmers together. And oftentimes, I think programmers go unnoticed until there's an issue, and they're the first ones that kind of get the finger pointed. And I love that you guys have come in and said, this is a place where you can come in, you can ask questions, you can see if someone has advice, you can give advice to others. And it brings these people who might not necessarily have always been at the front and at the focus together, because they're so critical to what happens in these integrations.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate your comment, but it is critical that developers be enabled in the world of Q-SYS. They're the ones pushing the boundaries of our ecosystem, and if we don't provide a place for them to be able to thrive and help each other, and also provide vital feedback. If developers are not enabled, they let us know, and when you see 30, 40 developers in communities who all chime in on the same topic, that makes us listen.
This is, I'm almost speechless because this is so valuable, and what you said is just so important to this audience and to what we're really standing for here, because I've been doing this for 25 years and as a company, and 30 years almost as an individual, and there just has been, as Brittany said, the programmer's usually been the last to the table. The programmer's been the one that just is given a pile of stuff and say, make this work, and when it doesn't work, that's when we get a call. So how can we change that?
I think it's a bit of a transition from the AV industry. So like I told you, I come from a world of engineering where I feel like we learn on how to respect developers and get their inputs more often than we should just listen to other parties inside of an organization. So developers are often the first persons that we ask their inputs on things, because they're the ones who know how things will scale up from there. And so I think just bringing this focus in the AV industry through our processes, through our marketing as well, but also all the same marketing machines we used to employ for all the other roles of the AV industry, but just now including developer as a vital part of that. So it starts by listening to them.
So I guess let's just dive into communities a little bit, because I know that's been a labor of love for you and something that you're continuing to grow. What are some of the conversations that you typically see there, and what's the difference between, from your perspective, communities and maybe some of the other discussion groups that have arisen in the industry?
It's very Q-SYS centric, so it all comes from a passion for Q-SYS. It has gone beyond just Q-SYS plugin development. Everybody in there is really passionate about the platform itself. So it really went beyond it. That you can tell it's really the common interest. It's a whole bunch of passionate, smart people who want to make this platform better. And it's really what I feel like the conversation has been revolving around. I'm personally very humbled by our community, because as being the manager of the community, I'm also the moderator of this community. And this crowd is about the most humbling, social media type crowd, because communities at the end is a bit of a social media platform. And I'm not used to this level of professionalism, good conduct, amazing attitude, constructive criticism, and like I said, I have very little to moderate. The developers create the conversation themselves, and like I often said to the developers when I congratulate them for participating, communities is very much of a blank slate for them to do what they want with it, and the success of communities is only made possible by the content that was shared by these developers, or this conversation that were chimed in with other developers, and that you may not be seeing in the front end, but have been pushing the boundaries of conversations within Q-SYS. That's we do look at those conversations. We do now care about what developers have to say. So we make sure to identify, who are the developers on communities, because, like I said, people come for Q-SYS first. So we have a lot of people who are not developers. The interesting part about this is that the developers are an inspiring role in this whole community, and it's become a bit of a, I'm a developer in communities. I'm now a very inspiring person for what we call the programmers and also designers. Everybody who joins the AV industry, who gets into communities, gets to see right away, what is it to be a real professional Q-SYS developer right away. You bet in that right away. And like I said, I'm very humbled by how everybody has been playing their role in terms of inspiring others. So.
It's so great to hear how involved and how hands-on Q-SYS is, because I think that's where the beauty is. I think programmers, developers are going to get more involved if they know people are listening. Obviously, they want to get there if they have a problem to solve, and they're looking for help. But I think bringing ideas to the table, being able to engage, and having an ear to be able to talk to is very important.
And a bit of an overall plan that we have with communities is that our long-term vision, we hope to have a really strong population of efficient developers, in the Q-SYS world. So if we were to project ourselves in 5 years from now, I would love to pride myself to say that we contributed in creating a much larger pool of people who know how to develop with Q-SYS and know how to develop with third-party manufacturers, and just use best practices, not just try fun things with code, but to do it for real. So I'm very inspired to see how people are, air quotes, graduating from communities and turning into more important roles than they were just playing, earlier, let's say a year ago, and themselves, being able to boast about their skills in communities, making themselves visible, gives them a lot of posterity in this environment, in this community. So I'd be lying if I'd say that, we constantly look at the top contributors and we look at them and go, hey, what are these guys doing? What are these guys working on? And then the deeper we dive, the more interesting it gets, and the more hey, we have quality developers now, and more. And the communities has been helping and having them thrive within this ecosystem, whereas, like you said, before they were, in the shadows. Yeah. So it gives them a place for them to, give themselves a bit of posterity in this whole environment, and I think it's working out really well. Like, we're able to really elevate this personnel on this platform.
I would agree. Before we wrap up, Brittany, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about, from a non-technical perspective, because you're not actually doing development, but obviously keeping tabs on it and being able to, how do you benefit from communities or other types of forums like that?
Yeah, so like Steve said, I'm more on the business side of things, but being a part of communities and being a part of the other discussion boards allows me to see what's being talked about, see some of perhaps the pain points that might be arising, some of the things that programmers are saying, if we only had this, or if this was, I wish this worked a different way. And so we're able to take that, and I speak mostly with third-party manufacturers, and I'm able to go and say, you know what, people are wishing you were in this ecosystem. Or we're hearing a lot from programmers that are saying, we wish you had a plugin, and it would make our lives so much easier. So I can go to them and really help the manufacturer say, you might be missing out here. And being able to take that feedback, and we look at it. I get alerts constantly from communities and from other discussion boards, and so we just keep an eye to make sure that if there's anything that we at Control Concepts can help with, that we're aware, and we're bringing those not only to the third-party manufacturers but also to the platforms and saying, hey, this is being talked about a lot, let's take a look at it. Is there something you might need that we can help with?
No, absolutely. We've seen certain manufacturers using communities as not some sort of intel, but really like a real voice of customer.
Yeah.
When your customer is a developer too, it becomes important to be able to capture the voice of the customer. So, and I've had this feedback many times where people are, using our system of topics and bookmarking to be notified when, let's say, you talk about one manufacturer. Let's say when we talk about one type of plugins or one type of product category. So you can really tailor the information that comes to you from communities. And like you said, if you're more on the business side of things, you can also tailor the content that you receive from communities to serve your own purpose.
Yeah, definitely. And at Control Concepts, we care a lot for our programmers because we were programmers, not myself, but those on our team, and we want to make sure that we are supporting our programmers as much as we can in the field. And so for us to know that there's a place where we can go to see what's working, what's not, and how we can help, it's really important to us to be able to help the industry in that way.
I'm glad to be part of that.
So, Adrien, before we wrap up, tell us a little bit what to expect in the future from communities.
Well, like I hinted a little bit about, we try to project ourselves in 5 years where we hope that a lot of the people who are being inspired right now in communities graduate into roles where they are more preeminent into the industry. Q-SYS has made the strong move towards third-party integration, plugin integration, widening the ecosystem, and that will never work if we just do it at QSC. This is why we need partners like Control Concept, who come at play and just to put it straightly, do this work for us. And that's one of the reasons is that because you are a better place to do this work than us in most cases, and you have the bandwidth, you have the resource, you have the programming knowledge that you've been developing for all these years, so there's no reason why we could not enable a workforce of professional third-party developers. So my vision is just to have a lot more of people like Control Concept, a lot more of organizations like this who just get it.
Yeah.
Who just see an opportunity to get into, this new plugin development is really a new opportunity that's offered to me as a developer by Q-SYS. I'm not just somebody doing one-time scripting for one-time job installs. I can really think about bettering my process, bettering the way I do code, the way I program plugins, and repackage these processes and just press and repeat and get into more of a subscription model, which is often the dream for some programmer houses to be able to get into that business model. So this is really the vision for us. We want a strong base of independent developers who have fun in communities, but who also keep in mind that there are opportunities for them to get a job at this and market themselves.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being on our show. Thank you for bringing communities to the general community of programmers, and also sharing your feedback. I really appreciate it. How can people get in touch with you, learn more about communities, learn more about Q-SYS? No, absolutely. Thank you. So you can find me on communities. I could tell you go find me on LinkedIn, but I want you to go on communities, and that's where you can find me. So I'm Adrien Avellan on communities. You'll see me posting all over the place. So if you miss me on communities, I'm not doing my job right. So just go on developers.qsc.com. That's the URL for communities, and just start from there, and you'll see there's 4,000 other developers ready to chime in with you on all sorts of topics. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you. Brittany, thank you again for co-hosting.
Of course, it was so much fun.
You're hooked. You're hooked. So how can people get in touch with you, learn more about Control Concepts, and also read some of the articles that you've written recently? Oh yeah, you had to throw that one in there. So you can learn more about Control Concepts, see some of the articles that I've written and Steve has written as well on controlconcepts.net, and you can find me on social media, LinkedIn and Twitter at BrittDice. Thank you. And for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. As Brittany said, our company's at controlconcepts.net, and I do a little bit of writing for AV Network, Commercial Integrator, and I also have the State of Control podcast on avnation.tv. And I just wanted to give one final comment. Like I say, I enjoy watching this show because I think you guys are serving the same purpose as we're trying to do on communities, and really appreciate just talking about the developer life. I'm learning a lot just listening to your show as well, and it also helps me do my own job as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for the content. We're definitely going to have you back. This is how we do it. This is like a 5-star rating right on air. So please continue to listen to us on, and you can download the podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts, and also on YouTube. You can watch the video. And we really want to hear from this community. We want to know more about what you're listening to, what you want to hear more about, and also what questions you have for Ask the Programmer. And please be sure to join the communities and connect with Adrien, and he's going to tell us if you don't, so make sure you do. And with that, thank you again. This has been Ask the Programmer.